All right, Shalom. You reached the He Prayed channel. My name is Azam Awath. First and foremost, I want to say call Halayim Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai Bahashem Harakach Kwadash. Double honors to the elect apostles of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai Bahashem Harakach Kwadash, which is of Great Millstone. Shalom to the Bakyar, the elect, the rest of the elect. The 144,000, that's 12,000 men from each of the 12 tribes of Israel. 12 tribes of Israel consist of you so-called blacks, Latinos, and indigenous of America. The 144,000 being the governing body within the one-third. The rest of the one-third consists of elect men, women, and children. Shalom to you Israelites scattered due to the diaspora and also the triangular trade. So our people come looking like different ethnicities, having various complexions. So it's not a black thing. We're not the black Hebrew Israelites. We're just Hebrew Israelites. Shalom to those that died in this truth. It says the dead should be raised up first. Those that will be accompanying Yahweh Shah on his return, including our king, King Mashah, who is King David. And as always, it's honor and privilege, honor and blessing to continue to do this work. The water Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah Ba'ashem Harakach Kodash for answering my prayers and permitting me to do such. Baba Kashah Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah Ba'ashem Harakach Kodash allowed us to be an edifying video for at least one member of the elect. Before I go into the lesson, I never had so many dreams. That I could recount ever in life. The past few days, Salaki, I should say the past few weeks. Salaki, I should say through the past year. But especially the past couple of weeks, which I've been having a hard time sleeping. And the only way I could sleep after tossing and turning, which never fails, is on my right side. And I get these dreams each and every time. Each and every time I fall asleep, I get these dreams. But there's one particular dream that I had this morning. It was me and a few, I believe, non-believers, just regular people. And we were in this facility, and if I remember correctly, in the beginning of the dream, we were being checked into this facility, which was a massive warehouse with, pristine, floors, and, there were white floors as if they was polished. Then they had pillars holding up the ceiling that were concrete pillars. And they had doors, and I believe the correct term is epoxy, the type of clear, it's not a clear glass, but if someone would stand in the door, you could see their figure. So We were stuck in this massive warehouse, and then there was this little girl about 5 foot I perceived to be an android. The way that she moved, it was like a horror movie, teetering here and there, teetering there, and like going around, you know, uh, well, I'll keep describing her. She had like a white button up with a black tie and I believe black leggings. And the best way I could describe her is if you know anything about Marvel Comics, you might know about the X-Men, and you might know about Logan, who was Wolverine and his story. And even if you watch the latest Deadpool movie, Deadpool versus Wolverine, she looked like Weapon X, but she had a visor that looked like I don't remember him, but Jake on Star Trek. You know, she had a visor like that going, across her eyes. But fast forward in the dream, me and these non-believers, we were looking for an exit route. We were looking for a way out. After we, previously witnessed what she could do, going around, just killing certain people and proceed to turn them into something else, turn them into zombies or something. But as we were trying to exit, then that's when me and her, came, in fighting distance. And we were, what do you call it? I think the correct term is jostling. She was going this way, I was going that way, and we were looking at each other to see who was going to do what first. But she had this little device. It looked like a cylinder with a needle on it, but it was probably maybe about 2.5 to 3 inches in the dream. And it was, close enough for her to strike me with it. So I believe I stepped back a little bit, but she threw it and it traveled in an arcing motion. And I thought it hit the ground, but I guess it kind of, once it hit the ground, it disappeared and then it reappeared in a more short distant arcing motion, about 2 feet. And it hit me in the back of my neck. And I fell down to, how King Leonidas was told to get on his knees by Xerxes. So he got on his knees, and that was before he told Stelios to attack. But the pain that I felt was like the pain that they describe of a bullet ant. And I could feel whatever was in that cylinder, in that needle, being injected into the back of my neck. And then those two non-believers, it was a man and a woman. I guess they perceived that I was going to turn into a zombie too. And, being afraid of my size, they didn't want that. So I think, the woman took the device that was thrown off my neck and was trying to pat or, try to extract the venom out by, I felt like she was patting my neck trying to extract the venom out. And then the dude, I remember he was saying, "Do you got a razor blade so we can cut his wrist?" Perceiving that they wanted to kill me before I, turned into something else. then my one thing I remember, my eyes started to. It was like they were. I could see, and then it started to like a curtain fall down, just red, and it was just me, you know, having losing proper sight, and it was just nothing but red until I perceived that I prayed. You know, I perceived that I prayed, and then the red was pushing back. It was pushing back upward, like kind of like how Neo, was about to get turned into another Agent Smith, and he was pushing it back. And I felt like I was getting stronger and stronger and madder and angrier. Until I looked up and I saw that little girl that looked like Weapon X, you know, in her face, she started to, run away. And then I remember trying to get up, and I felt like a different sort, like all powerful. And in my mind, I was like, I'm finna fuck shit up. I'm gonna fuck that little bitch up. And then the dream ended, which reminds me of, certain brothers are gonna be put in certain situations, to test their faith before, they might get, if it be the will of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah Ba'ashem Rakakodash, according to their lot, spiritual powers, and sometimes the dream ends before, you get to actually see what happens next. So the title of this video is when their might meets another sword. Because Esau, he depends on his carnal weapons. But we depend on Yahweh, Yahweh Shah, Hakodash. It says Yahweh's power rested on chosen men when confronted by superior numbers, weapons, or circumstances. So first example, is Judges, and I'll just start at the top. This is Judges chapter 14, verse 1. It says, and Samson went down to Timnath and saw a woman in Timnath of the daughters of the Philistines. And he came up and told his father and his mother and said, I have seen a woman in Timnath of the daughters of the Philistines. Now therefore get her for me to wife. Then his father and his mother said unto him, is there never a woman among the daughters of thy brethren, or among all my people, that thou goest to take a wife of the uncircumcised Philistines? Because the Philistines were heathens. And Samson said unto his father, get her for me, for she pleases me well. But his father and his mother knew not that it was of Yahweh that he sought an occasion against the Philistines, for at that time the Philistines had dominion over Yashar'allah. Then went Samson down and his father and his mother to Timnath, and came to the vineyards of Timnath, and behold, a young lion roared against him. So we know young lions, they're very, they're very deadly. And you see it all the time when Esau plays Lion King and thinks he is at one with the animals. He ends up getting, chewed up. Verse 6, it says, and the spirit of Yahweh came mightily upon him. And that's the same sensation that I felt in that dream, man. I felt whatever was injected was extracting. And, the symptoms were expelling and power was being placed upon me because I perceived in that dream I prayed, even throughout the commotion, her saying, no, no, no. And then him saying, you got a razor blade to cut his wrist. It says, and he rent him as he would have rent a kid. So you pretty much torn him in pieces, torn him in two. And he had nothing in his hand, but he told not his father or his mother what he had done. Right. So we have to be mindful to have faith in Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai in dire circumstances. So the word for Rakah, Yahweh, spirit, breath of Yahweh, etymology, Rakah, breath, wind, animating force. That was that sensation. It was an animating force. That's a good terminology for how I felt in that dream this morning. Breakdown. Samson's strength wasn't muscle, it was divine force entering a vessel. AI commentary. This is the prototype of another sort of might. Not human, not learned, not trained, but bestowed. So I believe, all these spiritual power dreams, and, I had a dream previously to that dream in which I was with brothers and we were going to like maybe the Super Bowl or a football game, and Lil Wayne was there for some reason. He was buying all of our tickets. We were, we were about to just, fellowship and enjoy the game that was playing. I believe in the dream it was the Steelers and the Chiefs, even though they played in the same division or the same conference. That's who I believe was playing, or it could have been, because I believe someone held up like two pieces of paper that were blue and yellow. It could have been the Chargers as well, but so let's go to Judges 15. Judges 15, verse 14, it says, when he came unto Lehi, the Philistines shouted against him, and the spirit of Yahweh came mightily upon him, that animating force. And the cords that were upon his arms became as flax that was burnt with fire, and his hands loosed from off his hands. So those handcuffs, those chains, those shackles, the zip ties, they're going to be useless against the animating force of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah Ba'ashem Arakakadash to the choice men of the elect. It says, and he found a new jawbone of an ass and put forth his hand and took it and slew 1,000 men therewith. So how can someone in these times slew or slay or kill 1,000 men with the jawbone of an ass? But that's the power that the Most High is going to give the elect. Yahweh Shah Ratazah be of that number. And the prayer that I give him is, if I ain't of that number, just let me die. Let my death be in, being able to praise your name, as I've always done. Verse 16, it says, and Samson said, with the jawbone of an ass, heaps upon heaps. With the jaw of an ass have I slain 1,000 men. So there's really nothing to fear, but it's everything to trust and have faith. The word jawbone, lakaya, etymology root, moist, fresh, symbolizing living instrument. Break down the chords, melted all sensing like flax touched by fire. AI commentary, when Yasha Allah's enemies bring their might, Yahweh answers with a different category of power, one that rewrites physics. And that's when a lot of these people are going to, want to get with the program when they see men with these superpowers, these extraordinary, abilities. And this is our King David, and King Mashal in his past life. And the only reason why I always say King Mashal is King David is because I had a dream about King Mashal. And in that dream, I knew he was King David. I have a lot of spiritual dreams, man. And this was around the time when people were, I guess the word is refuting that King Mashal was King David. This was years ago. But this is 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 45. It says, "Then said David to the Philistines, thou comest to me with the sword." And this is him talking, I believe, about maybe Goliath. Yeah, it's talking about Goliath, which this defeats all you women out there that thinks somebody, the tallest guy, is going to help you, or an 8-foot man is going to help you, and you despise those that are under a certain height and you don't want to deal with them. Well, the Most High, he's going to be dealing with those short men or short kings, if you will, just for the context of this scripture. Because, power comes from above. But this is 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 45. Then said David to the Philistines, thou comest to me with the sword and with the spear and with the shield. Or Slakia, I meant to say in a singular form, Philistine. But I come to thee in the name of Yahweh of armies, the power of the armies of Yasha'Allah, whom thou hast defiled. This day will Yahweh deliver thee into my hand, and I will kill thee and take thy head from thee. And I will give the carcasses of the hosts of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a power in Yasha'Allah. Let's go to verse 47. It says, and all this assembly should know that Yahweh saveth not with sword and spear, for the battle is Yahweh's, and he will give you into our hands. Right? So we got to understand that the battle is to Yahweh. So going to Copilot, Tazabah Yahweh, which, I didn't say the word host, even though it's verbatim. I said what it actually means, which is armies. So it's supposed to mean army of Yahweh. Etymology, Tazabah, organized force, heavenly military. And that's why I say, I told the brother in Las Vegas, he said, which I do agree, two are better than one. But my faith is at a level where I don't believe I'm alone. I never believed that. Breakdown. David declares the real battle. Yahweh versus flesh, not David versus Goliath. AI commentary, this is spiritual power expressed through precision, faith, and covenant identity, not brute strength. Right. So let's go to the next scripture, 2 Samuel chapter 23. Verse 8, it says, these be the names of the mighty men whom David had. And how you say David in the Lashawan Tahar is Dawad or Dawadah. It says the Tachmonite that sat in the seat, chief among the captains. The same was Adano the Iznite. He lift up his spear against 800, whom he slew at one time. So the Most High made it so that Adino slew 800 with a spear just at one time, man. You know, let's see. Okay. So we're going to continue in this same chapter, but let's look up some words. The word mighty one means Gabar, which, you know, the apostle Gabar, he is a mighty one. You know, you can see it in his countenance. You know, you can read it in his spirit. Etymology root, to prevail, overpower, exceed limits. Breakdown, one man, 800 bodies. This is battlefield divinity, not Mortal Kombat. You know, this is what Esau doesn't understand, man. That Yahweh decides the battles, man. And in this battle, he's going to lose miserably and quickly, as you know, Donald Trump will say. AI commentary, these men were proto-superhuman because the covenant made them conduits or conduits. Let's look up that word, conduits. The word conduit, 13th century conduit, conduct, guidance, a escorting party. You know, so they were being guided. You know, so going back to Copilot, we're going to go verse 9 through 10. It says, before we say that, Barak Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, the water Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, Slaki Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, 1044. Verse 9, it says, and after him was Eleazar, the son of Dodo, the Ahohite, one of the three mighty men with David, when they defied the Philistines that were there gathered together to battle, and the men of Yashar'Allah were gone away. He arose and smote the Philistines until his hand was weary, and his hand clave unto the sword. And Yahweh wrought a great victory that day. And the people returned after him only to spoil. So going back to Copilot, Lashawan Quadash, Da Bak, to cling, fuse. Etymology, same root used for joined or bonded. So his hand was bonded to the sword. Breakdown, his hand literally fused to the weapon from fighting too long. And I believe there was another historical figure. Oh yeah, that demon, which his sword didn't cleave to his hand, but he said he couldn't put down the sword, you know, from slaughtering all the Taino Indians, which were the tribe of Ephraim, the so-called Puerto Ricans today. And that dude, his name, that Edomite, Cristo Colon, who you people celebrate as Christopher Columbus. AI commentary, this is spiritual endurance, a state where the body obeys the mission beyond normal limits. You know, So I'm going to jump down to verse 18. This is 2 Samuel chapter 23, verse 18. And Abishai, the brother of Joab, the son of Zeruiah, was chief among three. And he lifted up his spear against 300 and slew them, and had the name among the three. So he was able to slay 300 men with just his spear, man. Lashawan Quadash Kanayath, which is for spear, to encamp, to position, symbolizing strategic warfare. Breakdown: Abishai's feat mirrors Samson's, one man versus a battalion. And that's how it's going to happen in these times, man. It's going to be one spiritual elect man against a battalion. Let's look this up real quick. But your battalion will be anywhere from 300 to 1,000 soldiers. AI commentary: Israelite might is scalable. The spirit amplifies a single warrior into the army. This is First Chronicles 11 and 22. It says, which is supposed to be Bonaiah, I believe, the son of Joiada, the son of a valiant man, a Kabzeel, who had done many acts. He slew 2 lion-like men of Moab. I'm not saying that they're Chinese, but you could say, a dude on Bruce Lee's level, or a dude on Ip Man's level, because Ip Man is the one who trained Bruce Lee, which Ip Man was played by Donnie Yen in the Ip Man movies. So just imagine 2, martial artists getting their ass kicked, man. It says also he went down and slew a lion in a pit in a snowy day, which you could imagine it was slippery and wet and cold. But it was a lion that he slew, man, and possibly with just his bare hands. Lashawan Quadash Araya, lion. Etymology: symbol of ferocity and dominance. Breakdown: lion-like men equals elite warriors. Bonaiah still prevailed. AI commentary: when their might meets ours, the spirit recalibrates the matchup, and it makes it a handicap match, man. So let's go to the Apocrypha, which is in your 1611 Bible. Wisdom of Solomon 3, verse 7. Says, and in the time of their visitation, they shall shine and run to and fro like sparks among the stubble. And this is going to be concerning when in the kingdom, because we're going to be immortals in the kingdom. All of the nation of Israel, even the 2/3 that come back. Lashawan Qudash, Natazah, I can't see that character. Natazah, spark, flash, root meaning to spring forth suddenly. Yeah, we're just going to be able to appear, man. We're going to be able to teleport. We're going to be like the Nightcrawler, man. Be able to teleport, appear, fly. Everything that you see in these Marvel movies, man. Breakdown. This is post-deliverance power describing Yasha Allah's future supernatural state. AI commentary. The ancient feats of Samson and David's men are previews of the power Yasha Allah will wield again. You know, so synthesis. When their might meets another sort, the pattern is consistent. Their might equals flesh, numbers, weapons, training. You know, Israel's might equals spirit, covenant, divine empowerment, faith, activated force. And that's why, me personally, I don't like to play fight, man. I don't like to spar. I don't like to do nothing of that nature. You know, the main reason is I'd rather fight for real, man. This is Psalms chapter 144, verse 1, a Psalm of David. Blessed be Yahweh my strength, which teacheth my hands to war and my fingers to fight. You know, because with my faith, I believe that, you know, I'm going to be able to, you know, do what I got to do anyway. You know, I'm not saying that I don't study, I don't watch certain techniques, I don't watch certain instructors and senseis, and I don't study certain art forms. You know, I really just fight for real. I train to fight. You know, I train to be exhausted and still push through, like in Krav Maga. You know, if I do go to, you know, study, if I get the necessary funds, it'll be Krav Maga. It says, whenever the two collide, Yahweh's power overrides human metrics. You know, so with that, I hope at least one brother of the elect was edified. And I'm going to say shalom.